This is the third video in a series of videos I'm doing going over the talking points I would have used in a debate with Seventh-day Adventists had it occurred. This video I will be dealing with the little horn in Daniel chapter 8. Seventh-day Adventists want to take this little horn in Daniel chapter 8 and make it pagan Rome, which they say would turn into Papal Rome in their effort again to slander the Catholic Church naturally. But they've got a big problem that they can't seem to get around unless they just twist the Bible in order to do that. First of all, the Roman Empire is not even in consideration in chapter 8. It's very obvious for anyone who can read it all and do the least bit of interpretation. We'll see that the entire chapter 8 deals with the Medo-Persian Empire and the Grecian Empire. The Roman Empire is not even in consideration in there. And the little horn, if you will begin to read with me at chapter 8, verse 8, therefore the he-goat waxed very strong, and that's talking about Alexander the Great. And when he was strong, the great horn was broken, for it came up four notable ones toward the four winds of the heavens. And out of one of them, out of one of what? Out of the four notable ones that followed Alexander the Great, came a little horn. Anyone with any history at all, understanding of history, knows that when Alexander the Great died, the kingdom wasn't given to his two sons, but it was divided up among four of his generals, each one of them taking part of Alexander the Great's kingdom. Out of those four generals is what is taking place in where it talks about the little horn in verse 9. Out of one of them, out of one of what? Out of one of the four generals that took over the kingdom of Alexander the Great arose a little horn. Now, I'm not one of those people who believes that God leaves anything to chance, that he will explain it to us if we would just be diligent enough to seek it and try to understand it. Everyone is aware of the antiquities of Antiochus Epiphanes IV, how he invaded Jerusalem in September of 171 BC, and how he desecrated the temple, stopped daily sacrifices, stopped the Sabbath worship, and changed the laws of God. And through the Maccabees, they were able to retake the city of Jerusalem, to retake the temple, and in December the 25th of 165, they rededicated it to God. Now, if you will go look in verse 13, as I said, I don't think God leaves anything to chance. We know that that little horn is Antiochus Epiphanes. And we know that for 2,300 days, from September 171 BC down to December the 25th, 165 BC, that he had laid siege to Jerusalem. And in 167, he actually desecrated the temple. And here's what he did. He set up inside the Holy of Holies a statue of Jupiter. And then he sacrificed swine on the altar. The question in question, though, is the temple itself. I want you to go look at the word desolate in verse 8:13, chapter 8, verse 13. You know what? As I said earlier, I don't think God leaves anything to chance. I think that not only was he telling us that it was going to be Antiochus Epiphanes the fourth, but he was telling us what he was going to rename that temple as well and desecrate it in such a way. You know what the word desolate means there? It means, it's a Hebrew word, shamim. It's a play on the word Baal Shemim, which is the pagan god Zeus. You have any idea what Antiochus Epiphanes renamed the temple? If you have a Bible, look at 2 Maccabees chapter 6. And you will see there where Antiochus Epiphanes renamed the temple Zeus. So I'm convinced, let me read that for you. Chapter 6 of 2 Maccabees, verse 1. Not long after the king sent an Athenian senator to force the Jews to abandon the customs of their ancestors and live no longer by the laws of God. They've changed the laws. As to profit the temple of Jerusalem and dedicated it to the temple now the Olympian Zeus. Not only did God let us know in Daniel chapter 8 that out of the 4 kings left behind by Alexander the Great, the 4 kingdoms, there would arise a little horn, and that this little horn would desecrate the temple, but he also let us know what he was going to name that temple. The word desolate is Shamim, or Baal Shemim, the pagan Zeus. Alexander's kingdom was divided. Out of those 4 kings came Antiochus Epiphanes, who desecrated Jerusalem, took it, desecrated the temple, put a statue of Jupiter up in the Holy of Holies, and renamed the temple Zeus. End of story. And that vision closed in Daniel 8:26 and did not reopen until some 390 years later. And I'm convinced that not only was God giving us the person, Antiochus Epiphanes IV, but in 813, when God purposely used the word desolate, he was telling us that the temple would be renamed Zeus. Shamim, Baal Shemim, the pagan Zeus. So Seventh-day Adventists, I'm sorry, your interpretation just doesn't hold water. The Roman Empire is not even in consideration in Daniel chapter 8. Only the Grecian Empire and the Medo-Persian is. And not only did God give us the 2,300 days, which is 6 years, 110 days, beginning in September 171 to December the 25th of 165, but he also told us what the name of that temple would be. I just don't think it's by chance that the word desolate was used there. Baal Shemim, Zeus. So your slander of the Catholic Church backfires on you when you misinterpret Scripture. It's backfired on you here because you misinterpreted Scripture and had no idea after 140 years of what you're talking about. None whatsoever. So once again, through biblical truth, the Catholic Church is exonerated and found not guilty of the charges laid by the misinterpretation of the Bible by the Seventh-day Adventist. Until next time, this has been Golly saying, God bless.